check out my apparatus for getting these off. I have like 3 extensions, and you can tell because it's so blurry. I just lost my light. This is great! So, the next thing I wanted to do is try out my new check engine light, which is there. Shine my lovely, but nevertheless pathetic, but nevertheless adequate light on this part of the dash. So that is your stock boot release, trunk release. That is supposed to be for your choke, which this car never had because they sold the deluxe model in Japan over here as the base model. So instead, I'm just going to plop a check engine light in there because the Miata engine will have a computer. I'm going to, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, drill these 2 holes out. Eventually, one of these is going to be a fog lamp switch, and the other one, more sooner than later, will be a fan switch. But on to another agenda for the day. Getting this out. And I'm already halfway there. It's tucked under here. There's actually a heater duct that goes through here. I believe I'm losing one of my fluorescent lights. That's nice. Heater duct that goes here back for the back passengers, which is kind of a neat little feature. And yeah, you have 2 screws on either side here, and then 2 screws in there, inside this little cubby. And you can also unscrew these. This is just for this piece. I don't think it's really necessary to unscrew that. I just did and then realized otherwise. It's a little bit tricky, especially if you're sitting in the seat, and especially if you have some sheepskin seat covers rather on top of the seat. But yeah, the only reason at the moment why I'm doing this is so I can have a look at where the shifter goes into the hole in the body, obviously, and where the transmission sits versus where it's going to sit as the Miata transmission. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get away with this without doing some fabrication on the drive shaft. I'm all hopeful, but I'm just like, I need to prepare myself for the worst here because this stock gear lever, and obviously this has already been removed a little bit in the process, and, comes down to like about there. It goes in to the transmission at an angle, hence long throw, old school type gear shift. The Miata's transmission, the gear shift goes straight down to the transmission, and then there's a linkage that connects to shift the gears from there. That's a short throw. Even stock, it's a much shorter throw than this. My problem is, near as I can tell, I'm in neutral now. Near as I can tell, directly down, not at an angle, directly down is where the drive shaft meets the transmission. Now, on the Miata transmission, it's basically the same thing, where the gear lever rests in neutral. Straight down is where the transmission links up with the drive shaft. Great, right? I don't have to modify the drive shaft. However, it's kind of removed backward a little bit. It's out of its seat. This, usually about here, is not directly under where the gear lever rests in neutral. So, some finagling is going to be done. Maybe salvage this. maybe not. Maybe I will have to, in fact, fabricate, or in reality, I'm just going to cut little bits off of the Miata drive shaft and attempt to extend this stock drive shaft with some cutting, which is not ideal because, you know, yeah, do I really want to trust all the power of the engine on something shoddily done or even professionally done that was welded? Not particularly, but I will have to do what I have to do. We'll definitely know more once both engine and transmission combos are out and we can compare directly Miata to MA engine. I mean, you know, all the documentation I could ever want, hope, or dream for the Miata is online. For this configuration, this drivetrain, not so much. I've got some 40-year-old Claimers and Heinzes and stuff, Heinzes, and, you know, they don't tell you anything. They don't tell you enough. They tell you some things, but not enough. But yes, I'm going to take this out, and let's see how this thing rests once and for all. This little doohickey is a lot more useful than you think. Because there's a clip on it. And yeah, it's not the most powerful LED in the universe, but I can at least direct it with a clip onto a very specific spot as a little spotlight, so it's been very helpful. Well, you unscrew the gear knob before you do anything else. In order to remove this black panel, which kind of needed to be done in order to remove the you know, brown panel. There are 4 tabs underneath, in addition to these 2 screws. And, yeah, then we will be able to lift this out. Finally, lift this out, and then lift this out. So I have, because I need more wiggle room to, navigate around this, emergency brake. A discovery. What year does this one date to? 1960, which is 20 years older than the car. So it could have fallen in between these trim pieces at any time. But, well, even though Tomo's already got a lucky penny, Tomo's got 2 lucky pennies now. Having removed the trim panel, we now realize what the non-deluxe folks who ordered the base model got. They got a emergency brake full of earwax, and that's the real shifter boot. That's really real. It looks like an American shifter boot from the period, from the early 80s. It's just so basic, so, oh yeah? You want a stick, you miser? As the case may be, yeah, that's fake. That leather bit, which is real leather, is fake. And, interesting finding here. And I need to deep clean the shit out of this because this carpet probably hasn't seen the light of day since 1979. I love the, we have a rubber shifter boot, another shifter boot, and these rubber things that went underneath this, and this also lined the outside of this fixture. Not terrible shape for 1979. I have no idea what it is. It could be asbestos for all I know. I don't think so by 1979 Japan, you know, fiberglass. It's probably fiberglass. Should probably wash my hands. But, look, a 3rd shifter boot. I have to presume that underneath that, and once I unscrew that, I will actually be able to gain access to this and unscrew it from the transmission. I hope. Also, shout out to this shifter, which, I mean, it's beautiful. It's so worn out. You can still barely make out 5 right there. Yeah, unlike most people who would just swap out a shifter, this is going in this car, remaining with the car, by hook or by crook, because, you know, it's wabi-sabi. It is the art of decay, but also, you know, the art of it may be worn, but it still functions, and so, you know, it's part of the character of the vehicle. Well, bless Toyo Kagyo for being a mite lazy. They didn't put a screw in there, which is great for me because I don't want to tear this out in order to get to that. Yeah, those two I just undid. But yes, continuing. It goes without saying, but I'll document it anyway. This piece does mount to the console, which certainly means that this needs to stay. And just like that, removal of that piece reveals another layer. We have screw holes in the carpet. It goes through into this rubber piece. Would be a pity to have to change any of that unduly. This is going to take some engineering work because this is such a gooseneck of a shifter. But this is how it came from the factory, and the Miata's is decidedly rather different, so... The removal of shifter boot number 3 reveals shifter boot number 4. But that is the transmission down there. And oh my, that's this is gonna take some engineering. I mean, you're gonna laugh, or you are laughing, because you're like, but of course! But, you know, this is new to me, all of this is. Yeah. And there's quite a draft coming in through this transmission tunnel, which is a good thing. There are so many insulated items here. But yes, I'm not sure what I'm gonna have to do, but I'm gonna have to do something, that's for sure. Yes, my working theory at the moment is have the Miata's piece come up here and just reuse this gear shift, which is, you know, the opposite of what anybody has ever done ever with a manual transmission. But, you know, I mean, who swaps out a 1.6 and puts it into an older and less desirable car? Anyway, apart from me. So, you know, it is true to form. But yes, what that's going to require, of course, is some fabrication, because drive shaft ends about there. Too much fun, too much fun. And pro tip, this comes from my brother, who is more the pro here. Reassemble your large componented items while you store them, waiting to put them back together. So that's what I did. And the cool thing about this thing is that it's really been assembled for so long. I mean, it's pretty obvious how things go, which is kind of neat. I guess there is a plus side to reusing old components. Yes, and screwing these screws into rubber was far too much fun. Well, shit, man. I turn around and you've moved my boy.
Yeah.
Well, we do have an engine hoist now. Perhaps we should do that. And, yeah. Well, it's raining, so we should probably get this car back in. As it turns out, R12 is not toxic to ingest, even if you were to put your lips around that tube and ingest. But we're still being on the safe side here.
Nothing to see here. We're just engineering.
Yes, we're going to put it in a jug and take it to O'Reilly, I swear.
Yep.
They labored for 3 hours to lift up the metal engine hoist.
You do that, and I'll go write your folks.
Would you? Make it sound a bit worried.
Yes. We've also got those, because we need to jack this up. And jacking this up is going to be so much fun. Dog. So much fun. Aren't you glad you're a dog and you have to deal with this crap? Well, we got the car back in. And we are jacking it up with a block of wood. And then you have...
side, you can start.
Roger Dodger. Right, the car is back in. and the car is lifted a bit. Is that going to be enough? I sure as hell hope so. We can lift it more. We do have 2 jacks. That is kind of one of the biggest pains in the ass about this project, is I don't have an actual engine lift. I have to make do with what I got. But yes, we have our lovely engine hoist in. And, you know, that's just way overkill. I'm certain it is less than 1,000 pounds, the engine and transmission. And even so, but nevertheless, that's not for today. That's just in because we do have a limited space. Yeah, from here on, it is continuing to release the last bits and pieces on this engine, and then it would be the exhaust, the drive shaft, and all the motor and transmission mounts, and then it's time to release this thing. Those enormous AC lines had to be gotten out with a vice grip, and this is actually a vice grip. Nothing but the best. And yeah, I don't think there's any R12 in this, honestly. After 43 years, 7 years, at least under my tenure of not working, no way. There is a little matter of trying to get these enormous lines out of the way, but, you know, that's my problem. Yeah, I highly doubt that that's gonna come off peaceably. That frame rail underneath is mostly rust, so and when I do reconfigure AC for this car, you know, it's a someday thing. It's going to be in a different configuration, absolutely. So let's rip it off. It decided to play nice with me. This bolt is a metaphor for the entire build. Something that I was sure wasn't going to work, actually worked. Here we are in the seedy underbelly of the car. Well, we have to disconnect these wires. One of them, I believe, is for the reverse. The other one is like for an overdrive circuit of some capacity, and I've gabbed my jaws enough about that. Our problem, as you can see, that is where the gear lever comes out into the interior of the vehicle. On a Miata engine, that component is right on top of where the transmission meets the drive shaft. Here we have 9 inches. Of course, I would have to measure it properly before that, or before the transmission meets the drive shaft after the gear lever. So yeah, some fabrication is going to be needed. Kind of analyze what we have and figure out what we can do. Also need to drain the gear oil, which is something you shouldn't forget. That is, I believe that goes to the clutch. That's the clutch master, goes to the clutch master cylinder. That's the clutch slave cylinder. Yeah, that needs to be detached as well, because I believe we can get away with using the stock clutch master cylinder. It looks similar enough. And God, this thing is rusty as shit down here. My friend from New York would just say, oh, that's normal. This is in good shape. But someday, sooner rather than later, because this subframe is a little crusty, I gotta clean, restore the car effectively. Like, frame off, de-rust, fabricate new metal. That is not until later, though. So let's get done with this, because I'm already feeling the lack of lift. Alright, today hopefully we won't get copyright stricken with what I want to listen to. And on the agenda for the day is to drain the transmission. Yes. Noises. Drain the transmission. Remove the remaining bits and pieces off of the transmission. And hopefully drop the drive shaft. Which is not that. That's the exhaust pipe. But, you know, it's dark down here. I need light. This is how a clutch works, in case you were wondering. Actually, I probably should have started out from up there. But I'll do it in reverse. The clutch is engaged by this here, which is called a slave cylinder, which is attached via hydraulic fluid to... Perhaps I'll edit this bit out. Yeah. Yes. The master cylinder, which is right here. And that then connects directly to your clutch pedal. Your clutch pedal blah, 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 actuates that. So, in order to remove that, you need to find where that daisy chains down into the mass of tubing. And there's a spot where you can unhook one with the other. It is... Where is it? It is there. There. That's where you would unhook them. Okay. That shit is held fast. That is right there. Yeah, tried undoing all of these bolts between slave cylinder and master cylinder, and they will not disconnect, so that was miserable and time wasting. I may, in fact, just chop that hydraulic line in half, because I don't care. And then get, obviously, some new ones, which is probably what I'm going to have to do anyway. So, yeah, I'll leave that for now and go on to the next item on the agenda, which is draining the transmission. Now, the climber manual, which has so far been immensely helpful, actually had like a drain plug somewhere up here. It's actually that, according to the factory manual. So, I need an enormous wrench or just some vice grip, and it's time to drain that fluid. It goes without saying, you should probably wear a pair of really nerdy glasses while you're underneath, a car that's going to rain guck on you. If you've been asking, of course I've been wearing these the whole time.
Steady flow.
Oh, that's really clean.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Well, that's good. At least this was functioning properly.
Yeah.
Finally got that thing out.
It doesn't look like dirt.
Well, after numerous attempts to, try and undo this the proper way, we have gone with the traditional method of cutting the hose and saying fuck it.
They make houses.
They make hoses. Save that, Save that, fitting just in case we need it. It's going down at a tremendously slow pace, which is kind of weird because it's open and light. It's just kind of, take my word for it, underneath all those vacuum lines, it's dripping. So I'm content with letting it do its thing for 5 days. Next, it is the turn of this piece, a transmission shift tower, as they call it. The transmission oil is all out, so I shouldn't have too much of a problem. But you do need to plug this up once you've removed this entire assembly with a cloth of some capacity, so that dirt doesn't get in here. Although I'm not going to be using this transmission personally, whoever is going to end up with it will find that most appreciative. Kind of amazing after the initial yeet. These are just finger tight. You just kind of push them off, and then they roll off with your finger. Your dirty finger. Alright, moment of truth. Did I do that for camera the second time after I actually released it? Of course I did. But wow, look at the things I'm not supposed to look at as a consumer. Everything's green, which is odd. Copper, or is transmission oil supposed to be green? For a stick, I mean. I hope I can reuse this stick, speaking of. Okay, so this is a drive shaft spacer, and I assume this is here in order to make driveline vibrations, decrease them, that is. So I believe in order to remove this, because manuals are a little sketch on this, you have to remove these 2 bolts, and then you would pull this entire unit out. There's room on top. Back, when you remove those bolts for the back of the drive shaft, which is how you take it out, because while this bolt is exposed, the other bolt is underneath this here cover for the exhaust pipe. Now I could just remove the cover, I suppose, but it's quite a big cover, and I have to remove the exhaust pipe first. Order of operations, you know. So I'll try, just by removing these 2 bolts, see if I can finagle that. But if not, yeah, the drive shaft will have to come off after the exhaust pipe. Fun. Giant bolt! But yeah, I am of the impression, angling the light, that this will move just right, which is perfect, because not only do I need it to move, but it'll, I'm gonna need to reuse that. Why is it green? Why is it green? Why is it green? Why is it green? This is manual transmission oil. And it's green. It's weird. Now, in order to remove the exhaust, it's that bolt and then some bolts in the back. I am not sure if this is just one molded piece that's been welded together by various muffler shops or not. I'm going to have to find out, or I will find out indeed, very soon when I untake this bolt and it doesn't come apart. So, may just have to take the entire manifold off, and as you can see, that's going to be a magical challenge. A thought occurs as I descend under the car once more. My car's filthy. Filthy, god damn it. Of course, it's always the last bolt that is the most difficult to get off. And yes, I did inchworm my way down here because I can't get up there. And check out my apparatus for getting these off. I have like 3 extensions, and you can tell because it's so blurry. I just lost my light. This is great! God on high, I hope this is the correct speedometer cable, or it'll at least work with the Miata. We will find out. Well, today I found out it moves. That's why that's there. See, there's a U-joint just back there, and, you know, this being a spinny thing, or a drive shaft, I imagine it likes to oscillate, that is, jiggle around quite a lot, which is why that's there. So it's very important to maintain and keep that there. This bolt was a Crown Royal bitch, and I'm glad it's out. All that's left is those bolts down there. Do I have to jack up the car? You bet. Do I want to? No. I don't want to rely on 2-ton floor jacks to hold this thing up while I'm under here. So, those bolts are held fast. There are 4 bolts on this drive shaft. And you're looking at them right now. Take my word for it. And I've just drenched them in PB Blaster, and hopefully they will release. Well, somebody been busy. Lord have mercy.
Our drive shaft is sitting on the ground in the car.
Is it vetted? Oh, wow. There's a drive shaft in there. Wow. So, we are just a couple of motor mounts and a transmission mount pair away from dismantling this thing and raising it. This is exciting. So this is the transmission mount. There are 2 bolts holding the transmission to the mount and 3 bolts holding the mount to the frame. Bolts for the transmission first and then the frame. And these bolts have not been used, touched, or tampered with in a very long time, but they're no match for the torque wrench.
It's smaller than the Miatas. I'm staggered.
We are hoisting this thing out. It's coming up at an angle. We're not entirely sure how the motor mounts release. There's a wild clay down there. We have removed the motor mounts. They're still on there. And we've released the engine a little bit. This is almost crimping the firewall. Yeah. And now Clay is looking for an alternative to hold the transmission up as we attempt to maneuver this thing out of here.
Yeah, it's just hanging there now.
Is it? Okay, that's funny. Today, I found out motor mounts are a bitch.
These ones are.
At least. Yeah, we're going to jack up the transmission a little bit to make the engine a little more straight in the engine bay again, and perhaps these motor mounts will just fall.
Wait.
I really think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're at the edge of the pan here. Kids, don't try this at home. Even though we're trying it at home, and we're not kids, but experience-wise, we kind of are.
Don't do it.
Just
Stupid.
yeah.
Okay. Little bit more.
It's a good thing I still have brake pressure, huh?
Keep going. Keep it going. A little bit more. Stop right there.
Well, I'm off the ramps now.
Okay. Yeah, you can't move.
And it's out. What a sprightly thing without an engine in there. Oh my god, there's no engine. Ran when parked, no low ballers or know what I got. And that is a wrap of part 1 of this insane endeavor. Tomo sits substantially higher off the ground without an engine. It's wild. And this thing started up still, so that's a good sign. But yes, this is the end of part 1 of 3, 4, 5, 10, I don't know.